We must make our environment favorable for era transformation. No doubt individual efforts and endeavors are important and they should be respected and encouraged. At times these lone individual efforts are so intense that it not only influences the individual but transforms and influences the cosmic world. Of course these are exceptions, but it proves beyond doubt that each human being is God's prince and that he potentially has all divine powers, albeit latent in his psyche. If man so desires, he can convert these latent powers into active powers so as to enact amazing tasks at the cosmic level. People with radiant minds do exactly this. Such radiance gets reinstated as great men and with their extraordinary endeavor solve contemporary problems of the world. The divine incarnations of God are of this level. Their special leadership qualities at the world level bestow on them the title and respect of God. This is a description of the peak of greatness of an individual. Despite all this, the deep import of the environment stays put in its position. Its influence is noted at every step, and there is an intense need that this environment should be made favorable. For this, the only solution is congregational spiritual endeavor. Presently these efforts are being used to achieve the goal of manifesting era power, Yuga Shakti. The influence of the environment can be known by noting the differences in the shape and inner nature of men. It is the environment that induces skin color, differences of brown, yellow, white, black, etc. These special qualities, called hereditary qualities, that influence the skin color, ultimately are related to the difference in environment in different nations and regions. The small large forms of human beings are as per one's nation and region. The difference of bodily might in Punjabis and Bengalis of India can be attributed to influence of the environment. On an average, majority of the people of Uzbekistan, in Russia, live for 100 years. There is nothing special about their eating habits, material comforts, etc. Like other people, they too eat what others eat but live up to 100 years. Then what is the reason behind these people living a long life of 100 years? The answer is the influence of the regional environment on their bodies. There are differences not only at the body level but also at the inner nature level. This is the influence of the gross and subtle environment. The basis of the differences regarding culture, civilization, etc. is how has the belief, mental inclination and habit been molded in which region, and in which direction is the flow of the thinking and activities of these people? This flow does not change easily. Hence it is believed to be a difference in culture, and it is nourished too. These special qualities not only overflow in one's inner nature but it also abounds in one's ideals. There are different levels of beasts, plants, ores, etc. on the basis of the differences of the environment. When one compares animals of one country with those of another, only the external shapes differ, but there is a vast difference as far as their physical might is concerned, the capacity to give milk, etc. The different amount of wool present on a sheep's body is attributed to the difference of environment in various regions. There is a great difference between dogs bred in mountains and those of the countryside. The potential to endure seasonal changes is attributed to the subtle special characteristics of that area. These creatures of cold regions can endure cold, and those of hot regions can endure heat with relative ease, whereas this becomes difficult for those born in different conditions at the time of change. Those traveling in fast-moving vehicles often complain of ill health. This is because the endurance power of the body fails to adjust with environmental changes. Differences have been noted in the shape, smell, taste, etc. amongst herbs, plants, fruits, flowers, etc. Despite the fact that the name and form of herbs grown in various regions are said to be identical, yet there is an extraordinary difference as far as their chemical nature and other qualities are concerned. Differences have been noted in the shape and nature of birds, insects, etc. The differences seen in the characteristics of snakes, scorpions, lizards, spiders, etc. seem to be based on species differences, yet even these have their roots in differences based on the environment. Differences are noted amongst regions of various countries as far as conditions, traditions, beliefs, likings and culture are concerned. Children born in various regions imbibe that particular mental attitude and nature, due to the influence of that particular environment. The thinking, nature and actions of such children are similar to that of other people living in that region. When there is a pressure of the majority, the minority start imitating the majority. This is called trend of time, flow of that era, etc. as soon as seasonal changes occur, like summer, winter, etc. The characteristics of all creatures, plants and materials too change. A lot of changes take place in our activities when the season is favorable. Scientists know that everything present and produced on Earth is not the result of some accident, and it cannot be called a creation of human beings. Over here quite a few things take place wherein lies the hand of subtle powers and not of human beings. The spots seen on the sun change with the change in state of the sun. Such solar changes deeply influence our planet Earth. Amazing changes are noted in the state of material objects and conditions of all creatures as a result of solar changes. We are fully aware of how radiations, magnetic storms, cyclones make ordinary circumstances extraordinary. Due to interstellar space and visible energy rain showers, snow eras have manifested on Earth time and again. Situations of water floods, oceanic changes and partial annihilation have been noted. If in future extraordinary changes in material objects of Earth or state of living beings are noted, its instrumental cause will be interspace invisible movements and not ordinary events. During times of floods, famine, intense snow, epidemics, etc., man becomes totally helpless. A person is generally independent and powerful in his life. Despite this, his status is ordinary as far as the movements and condition of the cosmos is concerned. He cannot induce rain from clouds overflowing with water that stand on his head. He fails miserably when it comes to obstructing old age and death. His authority over circumstances is negligible. Rarely can he save himself from the flow of time. He cannot stop winter season from manifesting, and at the most, he tries to overcome cold by wearing warm clothes and lighting fire. So it is very clear that man is influenced by the environment. People of different nations live a life that is influenced by their national traditions and thinking. Within that, it is the influence of the environment that is at work and not their material brilliance. With the congregation of consciousness, favorable changes can be induced in the atmosphere. Many a time such inspirations overflow from the invisible world, that within that storm, man's intellect flies about like dry leaves and grass. The urge for war abounds. During such times many experience the need of a major war and are ready to fight. A very strange frenzy looms large in society. There is no need to talk about it or explain it. The speed and heat in the air is such that the layman's intellect gets hypnotized, and thus it flows with the trend of time. Scholars of public psychology know very well how during gigantic war frenzies and regional riots, the environment gets incited and heated up. Just like this war frenzy, other subtle flows too manifest time and again and work like storms, to induce infinite intellects to follow in its footsteps. There was a time when there was a flow of democratic thoughts which uprooted rule of kings and replaced it with the miracle of people voting for their desired government. Then a wave of communism manifested, wherein under the leadership of Russia, many Asian and European countries too followed in its footsteps. Today half the people of the world accept communism, and they either wholly or partially follow in its footsteps. These thought flows of democracy and communism can be counted as intense waves of this era. Time and again waves of lesser utility, like feudalism, casteism, capitalism, socialism, etc., too have raised their hoods. A wave is a wave. An onlooker on the seashore witnesses the terrible ebb and flow of the oceanic waves. Many a times various thought waves too manifest like this, which carries along with it innumerable intellects and transports them to far-off lands. Lord Buddha's wheel of time was predominantly flow-oriented and not based on materialism. Material created a flow, and flow created materials. It was not as though Harshvardhan, Ashoka and other kings had unitedly appointed Buddha as a religious preacher. It was Buddha who heated up the subtle atmosphere, and due to that heat thousands of wise, capable and wealthy humans joined him in spreading his message. Every religious leader of the past, by heating the atmosphere in their individualistic manner, induced waves of acceptance of their holy message, and in that stream swam innumerable followers. Even in those countries which cut us under the bondage of alien rule, the waves of independence manifested, and as a result, terrific movements ensued so as to reach their goal. Those who know the precepts of the subtle and invisible environment are fully aware of the might of such waves. Its stormy night cannot be compared to any other force of the world. If one can understand the nature and deep import of the inspiration of that flow which induced monkeys of the Ramayana era to valiantly jump into the fire, it will be clear that the subtle environment has as much amount of power to lure the humans of the world to walk in the direction of a particular flow, which is no less powerful than movements based on material paraphernalia. One cannot depend on advertising instruments for public acceptance and cooperation as much as one can go on the favorable nature of the environment. There is a greater possibility of success if the flow of the subtle world cooperates in our endeavor. If the wind is flowing from behind, it is easy for ships, airplanes, and even people to walk on roads, and they can thus move very fast to reach their destination. If the environment becomes vile, terrible epidemics ensue, and in a short time span thousands of people die. Due to intense cold in the environment, living beings are seen to shiver. Many people are influenced by a sorrowful environment in their house. One can see how different the environment is of a temple and that of a slaughterhouse. In spiritual science, the importance of the subtle world and its environment supersedes all material apparatus of the world. For era transformation, we will have to make intense efforts based on spiritual science so as to make favorable the environment. Scriptures give us proof of the methods used time and again by spiritual scientists so as to purify the subtle world. Despite the victory of Lanka, the task of balancing the distorted environment during Ravana's era remained unfulfilled. Lord Rama had fulfilled his vow of executing 10 Ashwamedha yajnas on the Dashashwamedha god. Despite the death of demons like Kansa, Duryodhana, Jarasandha, etc., the distortions of the Mahabharata era continued to prevail in the environment. Lord Krishna saw the need of its purification and hence asked the Pandavas to perform the Rajasuya yajna. The Asuras came to know of the gigantic yajna performed by Maharishi Vishwamitra meant to weaken demonic force, and thus with the help of demons like Tadka, Sabahu, Merak, etc. They tried to obstruct these yajnas. Ram and Lakshman were sent to protect those yajnas. Yajnas have played a great role in carrying out solutions for social problems. Japa, mantra chanting, too, is a yajna like the Agnayotra, fire sacrifice. Materials are needed for a fire sacrifice, but mantra chanting yajnas do not need many materials. Yajnas are generally congregational. In it one sees the miracles of the spiritual endeavor of hodas, priests. When japa yajnas, mantra chanting, are carried out by many mantra chanters, a great amount of congregational power manifests. Such congregational spiritual practices are called puraskaranas. Puraskaranas carried out for special goals via penance-based congregational resolves, to make the environment conducive. Era transformation is the biggest, most intense, most widespread and most important task of our world. For that not ordinary and limited, but extraordinary and unlimited energy is required. For this there will be a need of material apparatus, yet the root source of energy will be spiritual. To transform and purify the public psyche is the task of spirituality. Hence the energy required too should be of this level. The greatness or lowliness of the environment is dependent on congregational thinking. Its manifestation is possible only via intensely powerful, congregational righteous programs based on congregational spiritual practices. Today all of us are endeavoring in this direction. One can hope that the results of these pious efforts will play an extraordinary role in the great goal of era transformation.